Anyway, on to GDC. That was our time capsule. And now Bruce is going to leave. GDC, the Game Developers Conference. First of all, I mean, we mentioned it briefly, I think, on like older episodes, but first credentialed thing. I mean, we did PAX, I think, was through Games and Not Games, maybe?
Ooh.
I don't know.
No, I think we just talked about PAX. You had a pass for PAX. I think I had to buy my pass for PAX.
Damn.
Yeah, I know.
That's wild.
I know.
Not anymore, Isaiah.
Not anymore, though, baby.
Yeah, you're right. Because if you were credentialed, you would have been in that. You're like obsessed with the media rooms, you do have a nice media room for GDC, I will say. It's like one of the few nice media rooms. But Isaiah, what was it like it was your first credential ever?
Yeah. We were able to apply through the podcast. So thanks again, all the listeners and watchers, for helping make this a thing. Got past the GDC to GDC. That was hard to say. It was really cool. Yeah, like, you get there. We got there, a little bit early, picked up our badges. I got to see this media room that you guys kept downplaying. And I'm like, this media room's it's kind of a nice
pretty
space.
Nice, yeah.
It's a nice little space. You go in, they got all these tables you can sit at. They got coffee and tea.
They got tablecloths on the table.
They got tablecloths on the table. They have these little like pamphlets about I think like just the general like kind of like what's happening in the local area and everything like that. It was like donuts one day. There was like bagels another day. It was a nice little media room. It was what I envisioned. So it was great kind of confirming what I thought it was going to be like.
No shade to people that run PAX. When you see that hood ass media room, you go,
hey, who knows? Maybe they'll step their game up now. There's competition, fierce competition in media rooms.
It is mostly like very regular tables, dead silence and tension in the air, and one like power strip that everyone's kind of sharing.
The GDC one also had like these like meeting cods.
Yeah, I didn't even know about those until we saw like one of our friends come out of there, and I was like,
it was pretty cool. Where like if you have like a meeting at GDC, you can like book this room as a place to go, and it's quiet and a little isolated. You guys can talk and have conversations and whatnot. It was pretty cool. Yeah, I thought it was cool.
It definitely is cool. It was cool. It was pretty nice. The feeling of like you have your badge, you can kind of you got to go to also you went to Day of the Devs and ID at Xbox. We went together.
Yeah,
was it
also
like
as media?
Normally you're just kind of dropping me off at these places, and then but
yeah.
What was it like to like go through? I mean, Day of the Devs again. You've been to Day of the Devs because it's public. But
even this year,
go
again having
ahead.
the media pass, we were able to get there earlier for the media hour, and we were of course late because it was the day we came into the city and everything, so we were late getting there, but we still got in there during the media hour with our own little entrance and everything like that. It was really cool. The Day of Devs is always great. It's always like a fun time to kind of walk around. I saw like a bunch of friends and old college people I know from college, like old professors over at RIT, people I graduated with who are now in the industry and doing cool things. So that was always great. And then the ID at Xbox, also really cool. That's one I think is definitely more that, I'm used to just dropping you off at these things.
Yes.
Or like walking you to these things or seeing you and waving you off goodbye to these things. You go behind these closed doors and who knows what you do. This was cool to actually like be able to go in with you. Our friend Jeff, seeing him who, I've seen him and heard, talk to him through you and stuff like that about like everything, a lot of MLS stuff and everything like that. It was cool finally meeting him in person and, putting a face to the name and everything like that. And then also like playing the games. It was also really cool because it's like the ID at Xbox event is a like quieter kind of more casual, private kind of like, here's some of the games. They're set up in stations.
Yeah.
If you see a controller, pick it up, have it. It's almost like if Day of the Devs was just like smaller,
really tiny,
and, like, more concentrated. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I'm trying to think if there's another. Every now and then, like people put on stuff like that. Like the Nintendo event that was last year, which I got to go through MinMax, was kind of like that. But it is a little bit unusual because a lot of times when you're previewing a game, it's more, it's the one game. So maybe there are multiple, but it's like, maybe there are open stations, but it's very much like this is your time to play. You have set times. You have all these like other sort of barriers around the thing. You know, it'll be interesting to see you eventually see all the different kinds of events that exist and all that. But yeah, for stuff we played, anything that a couple things you want to shout out from either Day of the Devs or Eddie Xbox. Day of the Devs, admittedly, we didn't like play a lot. I like touched the controller on like 2 or 3 games for like a few minutes. Yeah, it's a Day of the Devs ends up being a lot more of a social event. But yeah, so not too much I want to share from that for that reason. But Eddie Xbox, a couple of things stuck out to me, for sure. Like I like that Hella game that we played.
Yeah, the Hella, one of the 2 mouse games there, which it's not strange that there were 2 mouse games, but that was strange that they were also next to each other.
Yeah.
It was Hella is one, and then Winterboro was another. But yeah, no, Hella's cool. It's kind of like this, like, would you call it an open world?
I would call it an open world. I'm not sure how big the world is.
Yeah.
But it is an open
It's at least like open
world.
space.
Yeah.
You know, you are kind of you play this mouse who's like the familiar of a witch who, you know, is sick or is not able to do her witchingly duties. And so you kind of are out in the world acting on her behalf, doing things for her, like collecting, you know, resources to help build, you know, brew potions for people in the village, or you know, collect wood for the fire or something like that, right? Like you know, there's various tasks. But you're this like small little mouse, and it's they have support multiplayer up to, I think it was 3 or 4.
I think 4 total.
And so as a single player, I played single player during the little test. It was that you could basically create these, like, I'm not gonna say clones, but almost like snapshot, like ghostly figures.
I think they're
yourself.
referred to as shadows.
Shadows, yeah, that's a good. So yeah, you can like create a shadow of yourself to help you with some of the environmental puzzles if you do not have other people playing with you. So for example, I had to get to like this hut. I don't know if you did the hut as well. Where in order to get in, I found this like plank of wood that I could use my backpack rope kind of thing to like pull open and then create a shadow, and the shadow stands there holding it open while the regular me then goes through the hole that was exposed.
The shadow also functions as a form of checkpointing as well, where you can. So it has a use case even outside of if you had multiplayer, where it's like if you're climbing like a really tall tree, you could like make a little shadow on like one of the branches so that if you fall, you can like warp back to that spot, which I thought was cool. Yeah, it looked really good.
Yeah,
which was kind of wild. Just like how nice it looked for, you know, this is I hate Xbox, so it's all like indie titles, which you know, plenty of indie titles can look really good or have a lot of funding or have like the whatever. So I don't want to totally stereotype, but I'm gonna stereotype a little bit. I'm just like, well, besides that this looks like so as good as it does. Yeah, and it's very explore, grapple hook kind of. You have like a frog backpack. Yeah. And the frog like inflates, and that's kind of like how you glide, and then the frog's tongue comes out, and that's like the rope that you go on. I thought it felt pretty good, but the developer did mention that they are fine-tuning how the swinging feels. Yeah. And I forget if they said this themselves, but basically it's kind of like a very like parsed down version of like the Spider-Man swing. It's not nearly like that good or wild. You're not doing tricks or anything like that, but it's got like that kind of vibe to it. I
would say it's closer to Spider-Man and Marvel Rivals for people who might have tried that, where it's not Insomniac Spider-Man swinging.
Yeah,
but it is Spider-Man swinging. Like it's like you get the sense, but the execution is different.
I will say too, like I'm looking at the trailer right now, and you can do some wild stuff in this game. Like you can, so when you have multiple people, you can like grapple on the other people.
Oh, that's
which is cool. And there's like stuff with like the animals where you can like latch on it, and there are like there are enemies. I don't think you're fighting in the game, but there are kind of enemy creatures, you know, maybe like bigger animals like your prey or whatever that you have to like get away from. I didn't encounter that in my demo, but I was told that by the developer. But there's also like animals that can like be of aid to you, and like in one of the trailers, you're like almost like surfing on like you're like what do they call it? Where you're on the ski, like the water skiing.
Oh, like yeah,
it's like you're land skiing with like a rabbit at one point.
Yeah, I remember the guy there told us like, oh yeah, like, you know, the rabbits can almost act like a fast travel system or something like that, where it's like, oh, like you maybe you help them and then they unlock a location you can fast travel to.
I also think the gameplay, it felt very similar to me to Unravel, which I forget. Have you played Unravel?
No. That's on my list of things I want to play.
I like it a lot. It's funny, like just like game to game to game. Unravel's like a cozy inside in a way, like because it's environmental puzzle solving in a essentially like a 2.5D space. Like there are 3D models, but the movement is they're not going further like in. It's like it's a really cool game. And then if you do play that and like it, we can play Unravel 2 together because that one is a co-op game.
Oh, okay, cool.
Which would be fun. But the gameplay felt very similar, and even like the fidelity. I do think, I guess Unravel technically looks maybe a little nicer than this game, like stylistically, but they both are going for like that realism kind of vibe. But yeah, I was very impressed by this, especially for it just being literally never heard of this game before. It was just there, and I'm like, let's see what it does. And I was like, this is pretty cool. I'm excited to play more of it. You have a really high stamina bar in this game too. I was like, you can just glide for.
And I imagine you can maybe even upgrade it. Like, is the guy I was speaking to said that like they're kind of reworking some of their ability tree mechanics as well. So like some of the stuff you collect in the demo that we played reference things that won't be in the final game, as far as just like, oh, and you've got enough flimflams to now unlock a new shim sham, and like it's like, oh, we're going to be reworking that. So sounds like there's room for even more,
it was really cool. Other things you played there that you want to shout out?
The other mouse game, Winter Burrow. I actually didn't realize I had this on my Steam wish list for a while. What?
I'm laughing because I'm wondering if you're gonna, because you told me, you're like, oh yeah, this game sounds familiar, and I'm like, yeah, I wrote about it. You're like, I read it on your website.
Yeah.
Or saw it. Like, you work on you made Pens and Pixels, like the back end and the front end and all that. So
no, it's funny. So not only did I see it on Pen and Pixels, but then when I went to go finally like add it to my wish list, it was already on there. And so what it is it's a almost like a Don't Starve kind of game where you have at least in the demo that we played, you kind of have this like home base, and you can venture out and collect resources, bring them back to your home base to like upgrade things that then make it so that you can venture out for longer or further and collect more resources. That kind of a loop. Except you're this little mouse in this like forest, and potentially there's spiders or beetles or like all these other like enemies you might have to kind of deal with, or puzzles you might need to solve, or there was in the demo that we played, the kind of objective is that there's like a bridge, like a broken down bridge that you need to fix in order to like kind of progress. And to me, like those kind of mechanics are my jam. I love a good like game that's gonna give me like systems and resources that I can kind of like really lean into and min-max around and play with and everything. So it's supposedly coming out like a late 2025. So I'll be looking out for that game and wanting to play more. I don't know, did you played it?
I played it already,
earlier.
so I skipped it. Yeah. But I think it was literally the exact same demo. At some points they have had the demo available on Steam too. I don't know if it's currently available on Steam. I'd have to look it up. But I like the game a lot too. Cozy survival game. The art is really pretty as well. It looks very storybook-like. Which is nice. Yeah, there is a demo. So chances are the demo that's on here is either the same or it's very close. So if you want to see what the vibes are. But yeah, it's like, it is just an adorable, really charming game where you like knit a sweater and then it's like, oh no, you can stay out longer in the cold. So yeah, it's very charming. I like it a lot. Very into that one.
And I'm someone who found Don't Starve as like almost hard. Too difficult. Yeah.
I think we played it together and we didn't get very far.
No, not at all. I think Winter Burrow is, at least from the demo that we played, seems a little bit easier, or at least the onboarding is simpler and less steep. I feel like, man, Don't Starve, you got you got one in-game day. If you are not on it that like first day, I feel like you're fucked.
What's also wild about this game
and this is different.
Did your demo start with like the narrative setup?
A little bit, yeah.
The narrative is actually like kind of really good. I feel
like I was like, oh, okay.
Where it's like you're this city, like your parents move. It's like an immigrant story, basically, about like advice. So your parents moved to the city, But they originally lived in this burrow in the woods, but they went to the city to like get rid of the stress of the wilderness, only to find the stress of capitalism carrying them down as they worked in the mines until they died. And it was the only job they could get, the job in the mines, and they died before they could go to afford to go back home again. So you're like going back home, and I'm like, oh my god, this is really good. Like, I thought it was really cool. Which I also, what I liked about that is it felt like a very different take on what you normally get in games that have to do with, you know, increasing your survival ability or, you know, improving your base, which a lot of times those games are, you know, like the Stardew formula of like, oh my gosh, you were so sick of your like life and now you're gonna have fun, la la la. And now it's like, I'm returning to the place my ancestors forged. Like, I don't know. Again, I don't think it's gonna be a big part of the story, but to me, it says that there's gonna be more than just like, and now you saw this person, yay, and like, you know, it just has like a little bit more meat to it, which I think is cool. I'm excited about this game. Any other shots you want to do before we talk about GDC proper?
I think, you know, one of the bigger ones, the Clair Obscura Expedition 33.
Clair Obscura. I keep saying Clair Obscura, but it's
not Obscura. Oh my god.
No, I don't think so. It's spelled OPS.
No, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Obscura, but I keep saying Clair Obscura. It's Clair Obscura.
Clair Obscura, man.
You can just say Expedition 33 also, or if you want to be funky,
CO.
COD. I'm doing like COD E33 or something. Wait.
COE.
Yeah, Claire. I'll figure it out.
Clair Obscura.
COE 33 is what I've also been calling it.
That's just as many syllables. This is not easier. We need a...
You down with COE? Yeah, you know me. Expedition 33.
Clair Obscura Expedition 33. Also had that demo there. We played a little bit of that. That one we did share. We kind of did a plastic controller kind of thing. Just because the demo they have is like... It's
4
really
hours
long.
Oh my gosh. That's too
long.
long.
And it only had 2 stations. And it's like, well, if someone's going ham on one, you better hope the other person...
Just like, I'm going to play all the... Get my coverage is going to be so thorough. And I'm like, okay, relax. Like, I don't know. I got other games to play.
But play that game. I'm super into it. I love a good... It is a turn-based system. Turn-based kind of like action... RPG kind of system.
New Metaphor Fantasia.
Yeah, it's definitely got like,
and its
definitely
name's
hints
also
and
bad.
It's
Clair Obscura.
Metaphor easier to pronounce. We tried that. I'm curious, what did you think of it? How'd you feel?
I liked it a lot. For me, this is a successful demo in the sense that I went in interested in the game and I left slightly more interested in the game. So I feel like it's a win for the team. I thought it was really good, really stylish. My only concerns are the telegraphing is really quick on like enemy attacks and not that parsable to me. And when you do your attack, everything's like it's turn-based, but there's real-time elements in terms of landing like a perfect attack, which, you know, you've seen stuff like the Mario and Luigi games. And as Jill Grote pointed out to me, Sea of Stars also has a timing thing to it. I haven't played Sea of Stars, so I didn't know that. But yeah, it has that element. But the UI for that is in different spots on the screen at all times. And I find that really disorienting. So I do think there's moments where I feel like it is very stylish, but I'm like, I don't know what's happening. My eyes are bleeding. I don't know what's going on. But I think you might get used to that. And there's also audio cues that are the same. Like you point out to me that the audio cue is always the same.
Like the timing for the reactions are always the same. Yeah. Even if the UI...
is moving around. So, and also with the enemy stuff, I feel like, you know, it's an RPG, probably gonna fight these enemies a million times. Maybe you just kind of get to know, oh, this enemy's like this.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I feel like even the con might kind of go away as I play more of it. And they are still like, you know, they're not done with it. You're not done till you like, you know, press it as like a disc and everything. Was it going gold or that? Yeah, you can patch and stuff, but you know, you're probably not gonna, I mean, maybe some people do make larger adjustments to like bigger gameplay elements, but those were my only like concerns about the game. Everything else was super cool. Yeah. What about you?
Pretty much the same. Love the kind of like art style and vibe that they're going for. They have outfits, which is always nice. I know like we found that there's these like flowery outfits that we could put the characters in, and it was like, all right, yeah, cool, little tuxedo man.
You can switch who's walking. So now I'm like, there's like
really cool. Yeah.
Immediately there's this guy that you get, and there's this girl that companion you get. Your party's gonna be bigger than that, like as per the gamed art, like you know. But the guy runs like it's the most important day of his life, and the girl just glides, and I'm like, I'm gonna be a pretty princess, really so cool. I'm just like gonna glide around. Yeah, it seems really cool.
Mm-hmm.
When does this come out again?
I want to say next month.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Ugh.
Like the 17th
I have
or something
to
like
be
that?
Persona 5 before this game comes out. The 24th.
Okay. All right. So not as bad as I thought. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I just think I just live with Persona 5 now, and I just need to start playing other RPGs because I can't keep waiting to play RPGs until this game is done. Cool.
Yeah, no, game looks good. I definitely am excited to play more once it's out. Well, I've looked at my notes and two things. One, I put Metal Arm, cool, which the main guy character that you play has like a metal arm, and I was like, oh, I didn't know that. It looks cool. He's doing all magic with it and everything like that. Second thing was a question which I regret not asking to get clarification on is in the game, the concept is that like every year the people who are whatever age, they like disappear or something like that.
Yeah, it's like a Thanos snap for like certain ages.
Yeah, and every year it kind of like counts down, and you know, people younger and younger are kind of getting Thanos snapped. My question that I really wanted to get answered is like, well, what happens on your birthday? Like, if the people who are 33 or who are 34 just got snapped, and I'm 33, on my birthday, do I like just wake up snap? Like, what happens there? I want to know a lore question. I hope they get into it in the game.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's a very interesting concept.
Yeah, yeah, it's got some good lore.
Yeah, we got dead wife guy. You know,
yeah,
there's a lot of stuff
of,
to it.
Is he a dead wife guy, or is he
his
just giving
wife
dead wife? Okay, or his
you know,
partner or whatever. Yeah, I wrote dead wife guy was like one of my first notes. Everyone's hot was another note I put. I actually don't have my notes in front of me, but I remember what I wrote down like pretty well. I think my only other nod that I really want to give is Detective Dotson. I thought was super cool. It's in that vein of like, oh my gosh, I'm forgetting. Not Duck Detective.
Not Duck Detective.
Well, actually, no, Duck Detective is kind of what I'm thinking of. Well, not that, maybe.
It's like if Duck Detective was more of a 2D side scroller.
Yeah, it's like a bit of that deduction element, but more mini games, and also like the part that we played was very trade oriented. Like get a kite to give the kid, and the kid gives you intel, and then like that kind of thing. Really cool art style too. It's like a is it voxely or like it's like an HD pixel? Yeah, kind of like it looks really like packed visually, but it is still like pixel graphics. I don't know if you wanted to add anything, but I know you played Dotson as well. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I played a little bit of it too.
How you felt about it?
It is, I think one of the, it is very, like you said, mini game almost heavy. But those mini games to me, I thought were actually pretty cool. Like there's basically like an I Spy kind of mini game that I was like, oh, I'm with this. Like I
love the I Spy one.
Given the like kind of in-game environment, it kind of like zooms out and you can scroll left and right and like up and down and like kind of like see more than just like one screen worth, and you have like this list of items that you're trying to find. And it's like, all right, it's basic, it's simple, but honestly it hits, you know?
Yeah.
So give me a good I Spy. I'm with it.
Yeah, and it's set in modern day India. Just to give,
which I believe the whole team is in India, and they're like kind of developing to kind of like showcase like, hey, like, you know, there's developers here too. You know, I love a good you know, foreign immigrant story, whatever you want to call it, right? And it's like, great, yeah, no, that's true. I'm sure like there's actually probably a whole larger gaming community over. Yeah,
and like one of the things the guy had said was like, you don't really see Indians in games very often, which I would agree with that. And it's just like having it be, you know, the setting, the culture, but also like just a cool detective game, which I feel like that, I mean, I think there's room for both, right? Like there's stories that are POC stories that are like about being a person of color, but then there's also like the stories where it's like you just happen to be a person of color, and it's like that's just kind of that's treated the same as everything else, which I think is cool. So yeah, that was an interesting detail as well. But yeah, I'm enjoying seeing this kind of wave of chill deduction games. Yeah, you know, I'm like a nice little hint system in there. I'm like, don't gotta do too much. Yeah, I think those are all my main game shouts. I mean, there were other things there, but I didn't have time to get to everything, and then other stuff I'm sure will come up later. Like I did Promise Mascot Agency. It was fun. We'll see how it goes, kind of thing. Yeah, but we went to GDC. We primarily went to talks. That was like the bulk of our time. But, you know, in between that, of course, you know, we saw a bunch of friends in the industry. We went to the Min-Max meetup again, the annual GDC Min-Max meetup at the Tempest Bar, which was fun as always. We also went to Blackfest, which was like a tangential event happening like near GDC, you know, in the vein of there's a bunch of events happening around GDC, like the Mix and all these other like ones. That one was like a all day event with like their own like smaller talks, and then also just like meeting people in the industry, eating snacks, hanging out, sharing content. We were only there for like a little bit, but it was funny because you ran into somebody you said you went to school with, right?
Yeah.
These RIT people are
we're everywhere. We're in games.
I said this like so many times to people throughout the week, but I'll say it again on the podcast. Genuinely, and this is not sponsored by RIT or anything, but RIT, like I will take your money, I guess. This is like the only time I have really felt, and maybe this is true for just other bigger schools. I went to a very tiny college, but like when I toured colleges, they were always like, you'll have this lifelong network of people and like, whatever. Like, I feel like that's kind of just like a marketing plug. Like, yeah, there's a lot of graduates because you're a big school, but who cares? Genuinely, I'm always seeing RIT people. Like they're everywhere. So I thought it was funny that
go Tigers.
Like when you like saw like that guy or like he recognized you first, like, oh my God, Isaiah. And I said, oh, is he from RIT? And you said yes. I was like, yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Give me RIT, give me my honorary degree. Because I feel like I went to RIT at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean it definitely is obviously like a, you know, contextual thing, right? Like RIT has a big game developer degree course, you know, so a lot of RIT graduates end up in the industry working on games, showing games. RIT themselves come here. We have the Magic Center, which is like kind of like a in college incubator kind of thing where, you know, the professors and everyone are working on games and helping showcase like what RIT does and everything like that. So like
I'm gonna get that RIT store so hard. I'm gonna be dripped out in RIT merch.
Oh, we should definitely go.
Yeah, I know you said you've been wanting us to go.
Yeah.
How far is it from like where you stay at in Buffalo? Is it like
an hour?
Okay, maybe we can go later in the year when we go to Buffalo. Inevitably again.
Yeah, that'd be dope.
Yeah. You said it's a pretty cool campus. So, what kind of talks did you like look for? You know, we kind of went through the list together. And we went to some talks together, but I think most of the talks we actually went to a lot like separately.
Split, yeah.
What kind of talks were you looking for, and like why?
Yeah. So for me, you know, one of my bigger goals is just being on the more developer end. The development of a game is something that is, well, obviously very challenging and everything like that. It's like within my wheelhouse. So like, you know, more of the talks that I was interested in are the things that I don't have much experience in, which is like marketing and the business side of things and advertising and like work, you know, finding influencers or platforms to work with and, you know, help promote the game and things like that. So a lot of my talks are more like the community management track or advertising track or / like marketing, kind of like all the non-technical elements of game development, right? There were a couple cool ones about like how to use Discord for like building your gaming community and you know, don't forget about like web games. Like that's a whole platform revenue that you could go down. That's like 10%, you know, according to them, about 10% of the market of gaming is like still like web, like think like Flash games, right? Like Newgrounds and things like that. And it's like, yeah, like those are still, you know, legit games that people are working on. They're making content for, fans love them and stuff like that. And just general things like that, right? Like, you know, markets and trailers and how to, you know, be a part of, how do you approach a Steam, you know, community event kind of thing, right? Like one of the like Next Fest or stuff like that. So those are kind of the talks that I gravitated towards. What about you?
I was largely looking for some social media as well. I do a lot of social media, like, you know, promoting my own work, hopefully promoting the Gangcast more as I carve out a little bit more time to do that stuff, but also like doing the like PP Bang's social media, which is like a podcast that we recently spun out like through MinMax. For people that don't know, because I don't think I've talked about that pod on the show. I don't even know if we were doing the pod last time we recorded, but we've only done a couple episodes of it. So yeah, that I technically run Indie Council socials too, which I have to update those also. But so it's a lot. I do a lot of stuff on social, and I imagine with my writing background, I will be helping you at least to a degree when you eventually like start working on marketing stuff for your game as well. So I'm like, okay, always a good skill to have. So I go to those talks, and I gravitate towards stuff that is about video game narrative design and audio design. In part because those are the things I'm most interested in games. And then also when we did our game jam, I was like the narrative designer of the game jam.
Were.
So and I'd like to do more jams and stuff like that. I at this point do not see myself having like a future in games, like in the making of games, but life is long. And I think it's also fun to maybe have that. I feel like game development is like one of the most disturbing hobbies you can have with how hard it is to make a game, but you can just chip away at it casually. Like, who cares? Like if it's really just for fun, who cares, right? Like it's just about like exploring and doing stuff. So, but it's also, those are the elements of video games that I am there's some of the ones I'm most drawn to in terms of discussing and unpacking games. So those are the talks I gravitate towards, and those are primarily what I went to. I'll also go to stuff if it's just like an interesting angle on a game that I like, or just an interesting angle on a game in general. So I of course went to like 3 Astrobot talks because I was like, I was originally only going to go to 2, and then I was like, you know what? I do want to hear more about your physics system, even though I'm like, I know I'm not going to understand what you're talking about. So why am I going to go to this talk? But I'm like, fuck it. Or other examples of that. I'm trying to think if there's another kind of, Metaphor Fantagio had like its battle system, and I'm like, that's cool. So those are like not narrative or audio, but they're interesting things. And they're, obviously GDC, it's going to be very specific kinds of talks. So there is like the making of Astrobot, but that's kind of a rarity. It's more so like something very specific about the game, like how we brought this to life using, this special tool, or how we made our own tool to do this thing. So, like that's why you're not really going to get just how Yoshi was really fun, and yay, like it's gonna be like something specific about like the thing that's being made. Of the talks you went to, what are some that you want to share and unpack a little bit? We both took notes. How many talks did you go to total? Also, I think we had matching. Totals. I went to 17.
I think we matched. If not exactly, then within 1 or 2 of you for sure. Because I think pretty much anytime you were in a talk, I was in a talk. And
pretty
vice
much.
versa. So probably the same 17. There were some duds for sure, and also some like really banger talks. Like I think one of the better talks, even if it wasn't necessarily something that was for like that I was there for, was one that we went together, which is the guy at Yarn Spinner talking about how Dredge, the developers of Dredge, like use their tool to like manage the branching narrative web that they put in Dredge. And like, again, I'm not a narrative person. I'm not writing narrative. That is a you kind of interest for sure. But hearing about like the tool that they used and like how they were able to solve like things like conditional branching and like these like narrative beats where it's like, oh, if you've done this, then we want to offer this narrative option. If you picked up this item, or if it's in your inventory, then you can do this. Like, and how they manage that was very interesting. And it's like good to know, right? That is a tool that is now in my tool belt that I can reach for our next game jam, I'm
gonna look into it. I'm scared at how they said it's very simple, but it's like we'll see. I had a tool one of our friends, Danny, who works at Heart Machine, mentioned to me. She's using Artisy Draft for narrative stuff right now on her own, like not like on Heart Machine stuff, but just like her own stuff. So the Yarn Spinner one was definitely interesting too. One thing I want to shout out from that talk, and I would like to eventually publish a couple articles or thoughts on GDC. I'm working on one right now. We'll see how it goes. It's hard to like writing stuff is really hard, and especially when I'm trying to like synthesize, like combine it with like source material, where it's like, okay, well, let me make sure I like say this right, and then like how do I do this? What's the best way to like attribute like these aren't my idea, like trying to, but then it's not direct quotes because they're kind of like slides, and they're also just like I'm trying to figure out how to make some stuff. So, but from the Dredge talk, one of the most interesting things that I got from it as just like a quick thing was there was a slide that said guidelines for successful dialogue. And said no more than 4 or 5 text boxes in a row, each box 3 to 4 lines long. And then this is maybe more specific to Dredge. All text should do at least 2 of these things. 1, tell the player what they're doing. 2, advance the story. Or 3, be creepy. The creepy thing is specific to Dredge.
Yeah.
But I found that so illuminating because, like, I just started like literally freaking Jimmy Neutron brain blasting through all the games where I'm like, that's the shit that be pissing me off. I'm like, that's what, because there are games, like I love story in games, but there are some games where it's just like blah, 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 blah. And when you have too much stuff to choose from, nothing looks appetizing anymore. And it makes it so that like, I don't want to actually, like I love exhausting dialogue options in games, but when there's like too much, everyone has like 32 things to say, and it's like that's all I'm doing. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's just like it really messes with the pace. And then let alone when stuff gets like backlogged, it's like this character's like backed up on content to tell me, and I'm just like, they're like, ask me about anything, and I'm just like talking this fucking life story at this like camp and stuff. I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so real. So yeah, I thought that was also just like, it was really interesting seeing the sort of thought process also in like constructing it and all of that. Other ones you want to shout out?
There was one that I can't say that I took too much away from as well. At least not for like where I am currently in like my game dev kind of track and everything. But there was a talk by, was it Wout, right?
Yeah.
For Balatro and like how
I like that one a lot too.
Sort of like, how do you market a game like Balatro where the what makes the game enticing is not necessarily easy to show in a single screen. It is more like playing it and experiencing it. And there were a lot of just like great nuggets in that talk about like, hey, maybe reach out to like one of the and not just from this talk, but from a couple talks, one of the sort of like key pieces of information that I got is that like, definitely reach out to like influencers if you want to help like market a game, but don't necessarily, it is better to find influencers who are a better fit than just bigger influencers. And that is something that in retrospect is like, oh yeah, no, that totally makes sense. But it wasn't until I heard it and then saw why that is the case based off of like their experiences and like their history with the, different paths and things. It's like, oh yeah, no, it is better to like have a handful of, people that you work with who like really love the game. It's really in their niche and, they are going to like fight for it really strongly than to like just get some big streamer to play it for like 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like you'll build a community much better by finding someone who's like a better fit for you and your game. And I just thought that was really interesting, there was another talk about like that I took from where this guy made a game. I don't didn't write down all the notes because some of these talks are really fast, but this guy made a game, and during the development of the game he gave it away for free. And it wasn't until 1 or 2 months before the final release of the game that like that version that he's been developing became kind of like the classic version, and then almost like a Minecraft kind of thing. Then the real version dropped, and that's the one that he sold that had all the full content and bug fixes and everything that they kind of like built towards. So there's just a couple different ways to approach game development, marketing, promotion, things like that. They were really good talks.
From the I was gonna say the local thing one. That's the developer. This was Wout, who's like, I did not make Balatro. I just marketed it.
So he says.
I know the ultimate ploy. The importance of like demos and different types of demos for different reasons, and like pulling the demo at strategic time. Because like I guess from my ignorant perspective, I'm like, why not just have like your demo there all the time? Like, I don't know if people can try the game. But it's like, really kind of playing with that like demand and like timing, and then how they like how also they gamed the Next Fest system by having like, this isn't a Next Fest game, but which I've noticed a couple like developers and studios doing that, where we were talking about that when we unpacked Next Fest on Indie Council, where it's like some people will like send you something during Next Fest, and then you're like, wait, this isn't a Next Fest demo, and they're like, oh, like whatever. You still played it, so it doesn't matter. That stuff was interesting, but yeah, it was very cool. For me, I feel like there's so many things that were really interesting. I guess I will give a nod to, I think this might have been the first talk I went to, Storytelling Through Systems, a Narrative Designer's Approach by Adam Dolan, who I believe is like freelance, but worked on things like God of War. I forget if it was, I think 2018 specifically, even though they didn't talk that much about that because they're like, do not sue me. But they're just talking about like what the role of a narrative designer even is, and they're like, it's what the studio says it is, like, to be honest. But just like the way gameplay and systems work together. And one reason I go to these talks as well, which I kind of alluded to before, is I want better and more specific language for discussing games. Like that's kind of, one of the cores of the job that I do. Even just when we're here, I know it's kind of like, I mentioned, we had this conversation before we recorded where I'm like, oh yeah, I count this as work. You're like, oh, this is work? I was like, yeah, it's like, I think of it as work. But anyway, just being able to have stuff that is more specific than this was fun, which I feel like I'm already at that point for sure, but you can always work on it, and unpacking things, especially like one of the big challenges of talking about games and writing about games is how can I make you understand not just what it is, but like what it feels like when you're not feeling it. You like don't see it. You're just reading words or you're hearing me talk about it. And like one thing that was pointed out, again, this is not groundbreaking, but like this guy spent a good amount of his talk talking about mental models, and the ways that, playing into those mental models like makes sense, but then also subverting them. So things like, mimic chess versus like regular chess, and like how interesting that can be. And also one thing I really liked from a lot of these talks is, which I need to pull this out as a separate list, there was like some fun additional sources. Like I really like when talks gave you additional resources to explore the topics. And like one of his was, I don't know if you've read this book yet, The Design of Everyday Things.
I know of it. It's got like a little teapot.
Yeah.
I think on the cover. Yeah. I think I might even own a digital, like it might have been something I got on like Audible or something like that.
Yeah. So that was like, part of his talk, and then talking about just like aligning gameplay and narrative. Of course, Celeste being like one of the good examples of doing this, and then, trying to write for Atreus in a way that feels useful in the context of playing the game, but also makes sense for showing like the relationship developing and the ebbs and flows like between like Kratos and Atreus and things like that. The importance of conditional logic, which luckily I did already know a little bit about conditional logic from taking comp sci in high school. So it's like, cool, like you don't have to know too. And he's like, don't be afraid. I know we write because we don't want numbers and thoughts, but it's okay. And then like he kind of just, showed some examples, and like it was nice seeing him also like show his own failings in his own work, like how he's like, oh, there was like this horrible like YouTube compilation of like whack parts of God of War, and one of them was I guess like in certain contexts, a bark can like go infinitely with Atreus. Like, there's a lot of Draugr here. There's so many Draugrs. Da, 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 da. And he was like, oh my God. He's like, it was so humiliating. Like, it's like, and now I know to put a cooldown. Yeah. And then he's like, but who like didn't put a cooldown? No shade to the game. I love this game. Rebirth was actually the example. Where it's like every time you change characters, they're always talking constantly. Yeah, which I have to imagine at that point probably was a stylistic choice on the audio designer, narrative, the team side. I think they like having that, but I'm like, oh yeah, it is kind of nonstop, like wild, in that game. So yeah, like that was cool. There was a really fun one that I don't even think I talked to you about at all, even off like content. But it was called Sex or Death: Achieving Satisfying Midpoints in Interactive Narratives. Were you there for that?
I think that might have been one I came too late. Like it might have.
At one point, they used Futurama as an example. So
yeah,
okay, you were there
familiar.
then.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. The talk is kind of what it sounds like. It's like, where can you find entry points and exit ramps for your game? And the importance of like keeping people coming back, but like having a game that you can put down and come back to, like almost like a TV show. And how you might, construct those arcs and, breaking those pieces apart. I didn't have like massive notes on this, but it was just kind of an interesting way to think about pacing.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what I do with like critical analysis is always inherently subjective because it is my opinion, but I think a lot of these talks help compartmentalize and add labels and rationale to like, why do I feel the way about certain games and things? I'm like, oh yeah, like I feel like nothing happens. Okay, why do I feel nothing happens? Like what is actually happening and what could be marked as these highs and lows and kind of like tracking narrative in that way, which is, I've used to doing that from a literary perspective, but it's also been like a long time since I've done that with like literature in like a formal setting. So that one was cool. Any other ones you want to shout out?
I kind of mentioned it earlier, but there was one talk where, where is it? Where are my notes on it? The online festivals. Derek Liu and Dana.
I was so jealous that you got to go to that. There was so many that were like good talks at the same time, and you just had to pick a favorite.
Yeah.
But if I could split myself in half, I would have been at that talk.
It was a really good talk about Derek Liu, who's I would say pretty well known in the at least gaming community for as like a trailer editor. He's worked on trailers for a bunch of different games. You can look him up for sure. But him and Dana went over kind of like when and how to best show your game off at these online festivals. And online festival can be something like a Next Fest. It could also be something like a showcase that's happening, right? Whether it's like the Game Awards showcase or the Cozy Games or any like of the many one of the things they wanted to sort of emphasize is that there are so many showcases that you can always have something to like kind of use to promote your game, and just like how to go about choosing sort of applying for these showcases, how to increase your chances of being chosen to be in it, some of the sort of like tips to get in one, like generally you want to offer something exclusive if you can, some new information is better than just the same information, and timelines for how to like work backwards from the day of the showcase to like know when you need to have things done by, and kind of like all these different just like patterns and approaches to doing things that make sense, but you would only know it from doing it kind of thing. So they really did give people like me who have never done something like this just a little bit more insight into like things to be aware of, also external resources, the Dana I think specifically gameconfguide.com, which has like a calendar for a bunch of these like online festivals and things that you can apply to and be a part of, as well as just like other like again external resources, checkbox lists to kind of like keep yourself in tune with things and make sure you cross your T's and dot your I's, and really, really fantastic talk. One of the best one. It was like a very early one. It was like an early Monday too. So I was like, man, this week is starting off heavy.
Yeah. That's really cool. And it's also wild how much, and every field goes through this, like every job is more than just like what the job is.
Yes.
Where it's like, I'm here to
much.
give like at the core, like what I do is I give my critical analysis of games. That is what I do. The ways I do that, and then the work that goes into all of that is so much stuff. I'm like, I don't want to do all that, where it's like, the thumbnail designs and the whatever and the promotion and the, and then like just tracking calendars and things like that. It's just interesting how like like the more I think about it, the more game dev, and obviously some of this stuff, like anything in life, you can also offload some of this if you like, but at a certain point you do have to, like, you cannot literally just be in a lab cooking. Yeah. Even if you work with a team, because I think a lot of these talks too got into the importance and the value of like cross-disciplinary work, whether it's like within a development team of like the narrative designer being in the loop with the gameplay designer to help each reinforce each other, or whether it's, we went to that talk from, I forget the name of it, but it was the talk that Actually, maybe you and I didn't go. Maybe I went with Sarah or something. It was the aggro crap talk on like how they did the marketing.
Yeah,
Were you there for that?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
Maybe I forget like I forget who's next to me in the chairs at this point. But them talking about having how do I explain this? Like in the development tools, there's like they have their own tools that they can use to like go into the game and do things in the game to like get content, to like just streamline, not having to like ask the developers to like take time to like make certain clips or whatever. But that came from like the front work of them having those conversations. And there are things that they did collaborate with like the people like programming the game to make like certain pieces of content. So yeah, there really is like, you have to do a little more than just make the game, which making a game is hard. It's not like that's not enough work, but it's like, guess what? You have more work. You have work on top of that. Yeah, which is wild. Gosh, for my last shout, there's so many things I want to talk about here. I don't know. I guess I want to give a nod to, honestly, I guess the thing that one of the things I was most drawn to, but it's not like that much to talk about for it because it was more visual, but the from Persona to Metaphor Fantagio, creating a visual identity for a new series, Koji Isai was the person that, worked on this. They first joined Atlas in 2018. They have a background in web design, and this was their first shipped game, which I think
is insane.
That blows my mind. And just seeing like their art process and the way they talked a lot about like the rationale for certain design choices, again, tied into like the narrative. One of their big things was making stuff feel like it could only be in Metaphor or Fantagio, like it wouldn't make sense in other games. So that's a lot of like integrating the imagery of the king, like watching over you and like kind of bringing that through. Having lines and points that kind of have an emotional flow to them. And like, when you look at the main menu with like the protagonist laying down, it's like the text is by his head, like the thoughts are like shooting out of his head, kind of thing. So it's like, the typography is like the manifestation of his ideas and just like a lot of nerdy stuff like that. Yeah, they just had some good breakdowns of what made the imagery work and make sense, and also just like some cool shots of them looking for visual consistency and trying to create visual consistency throughout the game. So they did this by like having the UI and aspects of the UI, like they printed out pieces of paper, and it was like some of the stuff was like the UI, and some of the stuff was cutscenes and things from the game, and they like laid them all out next to each other, and it's like, does this feel like that goes together? And they'd have people walk in and be like, "What do you think? Like, is really the cool vibe going together?"
Yeah.
So yeah, that was really cool. And again, all the Astrobot stuff was like insane. Yeah. Like just seeing I know you were there for the ideation talk, which was like how they do prototyping, and then I also did the making of Astrobot and the physics one. And yeah, so I'm cheating and doing one extra one. The Astrobot one there was so much that went into the Astrobot one, because I think literally Nicholas, the studio head and game director of Team Asobi, went over 10 topics, and then there was a bonus 11th topic because he structured it like the game where it's like there's the universes, and then he's like, but there's one extra, and everyone's like, oh my god, and we all cheered for him. That actually kind of is what happened. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, wow, you're so clever.
One more thing.
Like, oh my gosh, he's designing his PowerPoint, like, which I can't even imagine the work that went into these fucking PowerPoints, especially the ones that were like, you can tell are done by like something Team Asobi, like that ran through PlayStation hands. You know what I mean? It's not just like, no offense to other people's presentations, but it's like, oh, I'm freelance, I'm kind of just doing my own thing, let me not get sued. This is like people, and not to mention they all had like a bunch of people on the team had talks. So they probably all got together, and then like, oh my god, I don't even want to think about the drama of the PowerPoint. But yeah, it had some just really cool stuff on the prototyping, and there were like amazing things on like tempo of the gameplay. And again, I'm like, this is like the ideological tea that I was looking for. Of like, yeah, like why does Astrobot feel so good? I've spent a lot of time thinking and writing about how do I convey like what is good here and why it's so good. And this is something that I like didn't even like think about. And I was like, damn, that's so true. So basically tempo and gameplay it has to do with like the enemy placement in context of the level design. So it's stuff like you have an enemy and you like punch with square, and then another enemy and you punch with square, and then you're gonna jump, and then you're gonna jump with a hover to go over this other enemy who's placed by this gap. And then when you do that, there's 2 other enemies. You're gonna punch. Then there's a bot in a tree, so then you jump and punch, and it's like this like good flow feeling and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, like that's one of the words I was looking for of stuff. So I really liked stuff like that, and then also just I guess seeing more of their design ethos on what they make and why they make it. I think there was some really cool insight, like something I want to write about. No one steal my idea for what I want to write about, but and it'll be probably pretty short. But like one thing I got out of the talk was, in my mind, kind of the future of Astrobot a little bit, because one thing that a couple things. One, I feel like they're never really gonna maybe be as cohesive as I'd like them to be as a player, because they really like that, like being able to swap levels around, because they're kind of all independent and getting to hot swap like universes and stuff. But one thing that he mentioned for challenges was they said he says the team has a hard time making basically like worlds that are like more open levels. That's like the team's kind of one of their bigger challenges that quote, we really want to practice and improve on in the future. So I could see them in like an example of an open level is like that water one is an open level. It'd be just like sometimes like it'd be kind of confusing in them open levels. Like one of us getting lost and shit. You know, it's like, how do we make it where it's like the flow is there in the same way and all of that. And I was like, okay, cool. So yeah, a bunch of cool nuggets from those talks. Yeah, like this is such a nerdy thing, but I feel like these talks, especially like getting insight into how some of these games are made, it's like imagine, and I don't know how long GDC's been going for, but like imagine if we could really get to know like what made Super Mario 64 tick, you know? And like it's just really cool. Like I think these things are really interesting. I cheated with one extra one, so you're welcome to close with any other other talks. Oh, there's a bunch of other ones I liked as well. I think we could spend hours reading our notes off on these talks.
This is definitely one of the times, having gone to GDC, where after GDC I am waiting for that vault to open. Like with our badges, we get vault access, and I'm like, there's talks you went to that I couldn't go to. There's talks I went to that you couldn't go to. And like, there are talks that just neither of us could go to because, you know, we went to other ones. Like there's so many talks that we, I think, slipped through the cracks or just could not make. And I am eagerly awaiting catching those talks, because if they're anything like the ones we did catch, then I'm like, oh yeah, these are going to eat.
We were tired.
We were very tired. I was constantly like, shout out to the free coffee that they were offering.
Yeah, it would appear sometimes in the Moscone Center when
randomly
was there.
In Moscone West on like floors 2 and 3. They just randomly bust out the coffee cart, and I'm like, great, perfect. I needed this. Didn't do too much for me, but
I'm not trying to expose you too bad, but I will say, and I was tired too. It's not like I wasn't tired. But there was one day specifically where you were so tired. I was like, we got to take, like, I felt like a coach being like, I got to walk up Savager's Mound and I'm taking this ball and I do not care.
No, I was falling asleep.
When you drank the energy drink and you were so nothing. Like, I was like, this, at a certain point you need to lay down. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is time.
Yeah.
Which I think for GC, I definitely would love to be closer, like more walking distance to the Moscone, because we were further out. We stayed over by Fisherman's Wharf. So we just kind of got on the bus. Shout out to finally getting our Clipper cards.
To
transfer over
the Apple Wallet.
I had $60 left from pre-pandemic days,
$60.
And I was like, "Let's go!" So I got that. Unfortunately, I didn't like queue in until like Thursday like whatever, but it queued in at some point, so that was nice.
For next time,
I think I'm trying to think if there's other things I want to shout out or whatever, but yeah, it was really cool. I would. No shade to other stuff, and you know, again, the core, I'm looking to like play games, cover games. But I feel like moving forward, just being realistic, I'd love to do like GC, the Dream World, like every year, and like PAX, like one PAX every year, or like I'd be more down to miss PAX than I think miss GDC low key, because I feel like with GDC, I mean, there's always good games, so it's like weird to say like, oh, there's always good talks, and there's not always good games, but the talks are just like, they're just so good. And it's just such a different vibe from PAX, because PAX, it's like, boom, appointment, going around the floor, playing. It's very like game intensive, and like you're taking notes, which for some people GDC is that. But the way we do GDC, it's like I'm sitting, I have my iPad with the keyboard. I'm studious, I'm learning. And I like that a lot. It's just great to have like it really does feel like what people can get from like a sabbatical kind of vibe, where it's like I'm not doing my traditional work. Instead, I'm enriching my mind.
Yeah.
I'm doing research.
Yeah, betterment time.
I'm learning. I'm improving. It's like for real professional development, which is cool. Yeah, and like shout out to just like people at GDC. Like I met that one guy. I think his name's Eric, the audio designer. Eric, if you're listening to this, hopefully I got your name correctly. I have you on LinkedIn. Like he was super cool. Like we were in line for the same talk, and we just kind of started talking. Then we realized, hey, we're going to a lot of audio stuff together. Let's like go to like 2 more talks together.
Talk buddy.
Yeah, I have like a little talk friend, and then he went off to do like whatever he had going, more talks or whatever. I went to eat lunch, and it's like, yeah, good luck. And it's like, I don't know. That's also a nice thing about GDC. Obviously, if you're more looking for like specific work or something, you're going to be hustling that thing like hard as hell, and nothing wrong with that. But it's like, even just being casually there, like people are really friendly, and like, I don't know. That's been my experience. I know sometimes people don't always have great experiences like networking with people.
Sure.
Like a lot of people have complained about like hierarchy stuff, or people being judging and being like, what's your bet? Who are you? Who do you work for or whatever? And I'm sure stuff happens and that sucks. I've been very lucky in that, like, I feel like I've only gotten good, or I don't have the sociological intelligence to know when someone doesn't give a fuck, and then they're just like ignoring me. But I'm like, I don't know, I don't care about that stuff. But yeah, so that was cool. Just getting to meet other people who are like, this is why I'm here to learn. I'm like, I'm here to learn for this. It's like, that's cool, and it's like, yeah, I think that's really cool. Yeah. Oh, and also shout out to my colleague Sarah Pozorski for doing her talk at GC, which we went to.
Yeah, I found out about was it? And I know
Cellinome? I'm biased, but I did think it was good. Like genuine, you know.
Yeah, no, it was a great talk.
Yeah, she mentioned Cellinome. A couple people, someone else on like a different talk mentioned Cellinome as well. But hers was like a panel on it was called like hitting the bullseye. Yeah, crafting a winning strategy for targeting creators in press. Yeah, and just like some good casual nuggets there. I think the moderator did a good job being like, boom, topic, everyone goes. And then, you can tell that they really like, I mean, everyone puts work into their presentation, but like they have their notes and they have their thing, like, and it was I think really smooth and cool. And, other people were on the talk besides Sarah, who also did a good job. And it was great being there and being like, Sarah, honey, take a picture with your friends. Yeah. GDC. Will you be back, Isaiah?
I hope so. Yeah.
Drop our $250,000 on GDC, our annual.
Like you said, I think hopefully we can continue to keep that press relationship going. Keep tickets to GDC, see some more talks, work out better, cheaper, financial, efficient sort of travel and stay while we're there. And I would love to keep going to GDC. It's great every time I've been.
Nice.